Hi, I'm Mike, and together with my wife Sask, we've purchased a magical piece of land on the west coast of New Zealand. Here we plan to take you along for the ride while we convert this bare piece of land into our dream off-grid summer home. Yesterday we arrived back in the country, so today will be our first day in our new piece of paradise, and back in our much missed retro caravan. However, there's no time to rest and get over jet lag, as I have water tanks being delivered tomorrow, and the day after that a truck carrying 14,000 litres of water is booked to fill them. So time to get to work. Our property isn't connected to any services, so while in Amsterdam I planned as much of this build as possible. So there was less time organising and mucking around and more time just getting things done. I have two 10,000 litre tanks arriving this afternoon and a truck with 14,000 litres of fresh water coming tomorrow. So let's get stuck in. I quickly cut everything to length with the required size from the tank manufacturer, then roughly laid it out and screwed it all together. Next I had to make sure it was going to line up with where I wanted the cabins to go, so I created a string line that was square with the container, and I would then use this line to square all the cabins off later. However, before I could finish the base for the tanks, the two tanks arrived. However, this didn't matter so much as they aren't big tanks, and I thought I should be able to move them into place by myself one way or another. So I helped the driver unload the tanks, had a quick chat, and I tied them off to the container so they didn't blow down the bank overnight. It's always hard picking colours from a colour swatch on screen, especially when the pictures of the tanks are renders rather than real photos. But we're both very happy with the colour, and they're going to blend in nicely to the environment and match our cabins nicely. I like my water as cold as possible, so going with a lighter colour on the tanks will help reflect more of the sun's heat. I then proceeded to carry on with the base for the tanks, where I had to level this out and to dig the frame in, so I didn't need to fill the whole thing with too much sand. However, this is definitely where I could start feeling the jet lag, and digging this while adjusting to from the cold winter of Europe to the intense heat of the New Zealand sun wasn't fun, but someone had to do it. I then hammered in some pegs on all sides and then used these pegs to screw the frame to while I was leveling it, giving me a nice level frame for me to fill with sand. So next was another trip, but this time to the local quarry to get some sand to lay out that will then support the tanks nice and level. I ended up needing 2 trailer loads, so I had to pop down and get another one, but within not too long it was all done, and then I was ready to move the tanks into place. I had been pondering all day on how I was actually going to move these, but settled with laying down a couple of lengths of timber and then sliding them into place. And this actually ended up working just as well as it did in my head. I mean, don't get me wrong, they are heavy, but taking my time and making sure they stayed on the tracks, not slipping off, they ended up where they needed to go. I then just propped up one side of the tanks using a spade until the tank was high enough that I could pull the timber track out. I then did the same thing with the other side, making sure that when the tank went down it was more or less in place of where I needed it to be. I then screwed on all the fittings and connected the tanks together before the truck arrived with the water. However, overnight it poured down. With such heavy rain, our section was soaked. We were very lucky the truck was able to make it down our driveway to bring us our much needed water. The driver was a champ and navigated our long driveway between massive trees with ease. He filled our tanks and all of a sudden we had 14,000 litres of water. This was a massive milestone for us and things were finally happening. It's easy enough to live without too much power, but it's very hard to live without water. So getting this water on the property was massive. Next, I start working out where our piles will go for the foundations for our cabins. So follow along and see what we get up to. And guys, bear with us. I've realized along this process that learning how to make videos alongside with all this work is a big job. Thanks for watching, and until next time.